G'day folks, Jeff here with my January collection update. G'day folks, welcome back to the channel. This is my January collection update, which isn't quite as late as usual. It's only midway through February at the moment. So yeah, but there's plenty to get through, so let's get to it. Alright, first up is a batch of records I got from Total War Records. First we have Immolation with Here and After. This one came out in like 96, I think. This is the same lineup as Dawn of Possession, but for some reason they took 5 years to release their next album. Not sure why, but in that time they did improve their skills and songwriting abilities. It still occasionally sounds a bit like first album. I feel Nothing's pretty similar style to Dawn of Possession. But yeah, last song, Christ's Cage, starts their trend of long sort of epic songs to close out the album with, which they did continue quite well. So yeah, I always love this cover art, except for this bit. I saw a, let's see if you can see that properly. I remember seeing a meme of that where it was pretending that guy's on the phone, so now I can't, it was like a Verizon fake ad or something or other. So now I can't see anything but that guy going, what? And but anyway, so yeah, killer second album from one of my favourite death metal bands. And then after that, we move on to the next Immolation album, Failures for Gods. This is a couple of years later. It's got a, I don't know, kind of cruddy set of sound, I reckon. You sort of get used to it, but initially it's sort of like, is that supposed to sound like that? This is with their new drummer, Alex Hernandez, who lasted a couple of albums and did a pretty bloody good job. This is them becoming a bit more sort of jagged and sort of weirder style. Of course, this has got like No Jesus, No Beast, which is definitely a classic. It's very good fun to live to chant along with it as Can You Hear Us? Death to Jesus. Charming boys. I've always loved this cover art as well, and all these versions come with like nice spiffy posters, which is mildly tempting to frame. For some reason there's like there's an alternate version from a different angle. You also get the full version, which it's a little boring on the sides, but anyway. That main cover art though, it's awesome. Reminds me of one of my favourite Sandman comics, which they actually filmed in the recent series when he goes to hell to reclaim one of his items. There's a huge, awesome scene of the devil looking out over a whole lot of wacky monsters, but I'm wondering if this is inspired by it, but at any rate, great album. And then, under the third album, who would have guessed, Immolation with Close to a World Below. This is actually my first Immolation I ever heard. For some reason I kind of missed these guys in the 90s. I didn't get this until, I don't know, sometime in the 2000s at that stage. Pretty sure it was one that I didn't actually have labelled, and I wondered what the hell it was for a while until I finally worked it out. But yeah, this is probably the peak of their wackiness, or not wacky, but sort of intense craziness. After this, they kind of smoothed it out a little. But yeah, once I heard the chunky riff in Higher Coward, yeah, I was sold. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I probably should mention, if you don't know what Immolation sound like, they're just pretty pure New York death metal sort of style. Lots of weird sort of, yeah, as I said, jagged sort of riffs, dissonant sort of style, but yeah, bloody awesome. Father, You're Not a Father is another classic on this. It's got some pretty bloody intense lyrics. I think the drumming is even better on this one than the last album from Alex, and it's probably my favourite of their drum sounds. As I sort of whinged about in my top 20 of last year, they have some patchy drum sounds over the years. I'm never quite sure why, because surely they get a reasonable recording budget. I don't know. Only thing I don't really like on this is the cover art. It's just a bit too busy, a bit too bodgy 2000s Photoshop sort of style. Yeah, I'm big. Actually, my favourite Immolation is probably the album after this, Unholy Cult, which is a little smoother than this, a little more sort of chunky and they're more modern style, but I don't actually have that on record yet, so I'm hoping one day someone re-releases that because it's bloody awesome. But yeah, thank you Total War, my Immolation collection just grew quite a bit. Next up are a couple I picked up from Bitter Loss Records. First up we have Parasitic Equilibrium with Tyrannical. This is Rocket from old Melbourne grind bands Bean Flipper and Magnesite and Warp Spasm, except it certainly doesn't sound like those. This is Black Death sort of style, with a bit of punkiness about it, and a bit of slower, doomy stuff as well. It's now got vocals from KP from, what's that band? Unbound and Ocean of Zero. And it also appears to have Webby from, also from Bean Flipper on keyboards, so doing the rounds. But yeah, as I said, doesn't sound anything like their old bands. It's pretty intense bloody stuff. They got a lot of releases, these guys, and I'm pretty sure there's a newer one after this coming soon, so even though this only just came out. But yeah, it's a great mix of sort of, I don't know, catchy punk bits with death metal and some sort of, it's not that black metal, but yeah, it's still got influences by it. I really like the deep male vocals combined with the other female vocals that are on here as well. Sounds bloody killer. But yeah, bloody prolific Aussie band. This is about their 4th or 5th album or something or other, and still going, so good work, Rocket. And in that vein, I also got, from Bitter Loss, Parasitic Equilibrium split with Dark Horse. And Dark Horse is a Sydney sort of kind of D-beat kind of band, I suppose. I've only seen them a handful of times. I don't actually own much of theirs, but it's good sort of heavy metallic crust sort of stuff, so... And yeah, the Parasitic Equilibrium stuff on this is much like their usual stuff. Sort of, the track kind of switches between slow dreariness and very fast screaming sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. Up next is a compilation I got from Radical Blast. This is a Relapse single series volume 4. Yeah, this is a batch of compilations that Relapse put out of their early 7 inches, which... I've always been tempted to try and collect all of the Relapse single series. There's bloody shitloads of them, and I don't know if I could be bothered. But these CDs are really good value. So this has got Exit 13, Phobia, Agoraphobia, and Amorphous on it, all with their very early sort of stuff. Exit 13, unsurprisingly, is on there because Bill from Relapse was the singer. Yeah, this is just crazy, weird sort of grind from Pennsylvania. Strangely, they got like keyboards on the second song. Last 2 songs were on Ethos Music, and I kind of prefer the versions on that album, but I've always loved the really weird jazz breakdown in, what is it, Societally Provoked Genocidal Contemplation. So yeah, weird sort of band. Phobia stuff on here is from the All the Remains EP, and it sounds like shit. It's horrible and boomy. It's a complete Terrorizer ripoff pretty much, so yeah, that's the weak point of this compilation for me. The Agoraphobia stuff though, bloody hell, that's heavy. They're an old death metal band from East Coast somewhere, Pennsylvania maybe, or Jersey or somewhere, I can't remember, but yeah, they feature Alex, who's now in Immolation, and yeah, just great, crazy, sort of heavy vocals, killer solos. Yeah, these guys are, I think pretty sure they got back together. I don't know if they're still going, but they did at least one album like recently, but far out. This is it's a kind of a shame they didn't record an album back here, because far out, that was heavy. And then the last 2 tracks are Amorphous ones, which I think are just on, not sure if they're the same version as they on Privilege of Evil, but very, very old, heavy as buggery Amorphous, pretty much my favourite era by a mile. So it's got, yeah, Vulgar Necrolatry, which is a Abhorrence cover that they did very well, and Misery Path, which is also on the Karelian Isthmus, or however you pronounce that, but yeah, I much prefer these versions. Yeah, this is well worth tracking down, and I now have several other ones, and all I'm missing now is the first compilation one. I'm hoping Relapse do a few more of these, because there's plenty more single series after this batch, but yeah, good to get it. Up next from Gutter Prince Cabal is Idiot Beast with Bone Axe Blood. Yeah, this is a New Zealand band, sort of crazed, primitive, death doomy sort of stuff. It's a bit weird. This is Chris from Sinistris Diabolus, which was a killer old death doom band from New Zealand, and based on tattoos, I'd say Nathan from Heresiacs also in it, some other bloke. They seem to have an obsession with PV amps, hence the logo. Oops, don't know if the autofocus will get that one, but at any rate. Yeah, this is weird. Primitive is definitely the word. I'm not sure if it's dead serious or not. It seems a little silly. But yeah, it's friggin' heavy as hell. Last couple of minutes are like feedback and screaming, which works really quite well. So it has a sort of crazed ape sort of theme to it apparently. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more from this band. It's pretty odd, but pretty cool. Up next are a batch I got from Grindfather Productions from the UK. This is, first up we have Realise with 21st Century Terminal World. I talked about this a bit in my metal tag video, I think, but yeah, this is killer Japanese grind. Very sort of, original grind, early napalm sort of style with a bit of Motorhead sort of thrown in on, I think the song Sweet Hammer Heart. But yeah, it's just rabid stuff. Catchy as hell. Just awesome stuff. The stuff they did on the Japanese Assault as compilation's pretty bloody awesome as well. And most of their stuff seems pretty good, but this is a pinnacle for me. Don't know if these guys are still going. Possibly not, but yeah, just awesome grind. Thanks to Grindfather for throwing this in as a freebie. This is a Caustic Phlegm split with Impending Rot. I hadn't heard of either of these bands, to tell the truth, and they both sound pretty bloody similar, but pretty bloody good. So, yeah, Caustic Phlegm's a Scottish sort of death grind kind of band, a la, Channel Surgery. Got a bit of a Swedish death metal sound to them, and just gory as hell, groovy as hell, love it. And Impending Rot, Mexican gore grind band, but they also have a bit of a Swedish death metal sort of sound to them, and just good, chunky, sort of slower riffs. Yeah, hadn't heard of either of his bands, so cheers for the freebie. Good work. Also from Grindfather was Hokugo Grind Time, Bakunsvide, Mo to the Gore. This is the first album from Andrew Lee's sort of solo project. Still love that. Piss take Triassic cover art. Awesome. Yeah, this is gore grind or mince or whatever the hell you want to call it. A la your Dead Infection, your General Surgery, or your Agothocles. This is a cleaner sound than the usual gore grind sort of stuff, which is kind of refreshing. I like it. There's a ton of anime references that go way over my head, but I don't care. It's better than your usual Fulci gore movie samples. And yeah, this has got guest leads from Hagamoto, Dave from PLF, and Leon Delamute from about 50 bands. War Bad, sorry, is possibly my favourite on here, but it's killer stuff. But I really love the lyrics. They're just like, rah, 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 and there's no actual lyrics. And of course, manga version of All the Boys. So yeah, silly but really good fun. Just catchy, killer stuff. So yeah, glad to have this on record finally. As there's so much stuff to get through and to save time, all this stuff is pretty much on my top 20 for 2022 videos, so I won't go through them. There's Hokugo Grind Time, which I also got from, their second album, which I also got from Grindfather. There's Triac, Pure Joy, bloody blah, which I got from some random Discogs person, because couldn't find it any other way. And there's also, that did very well, Innumerable Forms. Glad to finally get this one from Profound Law direct, so yeah, killer album, well worth getting. And last but not least is, I got Worm, whatever the hell it's called, Blue Nothing, that's right. Got this from Repressed Records in Sydney, so thanks for that. Nice cover art. And yeah, I don't know if I showed off the awesome photos on the back. Nice work, lads. Also from Repressed Records is Dream Unending with Song of Salvation. Nice cover art, but I always think it's a picture disc for some reason, if that's not. Yeah, this is a project between Justin from Innumerable Forms and a million other bands, and Derek from Tomb Mold. I think Derek does all the guitars and Justin does everything else pretty much. It's a sort of kind of dreamy Death Doom sort of stuff. This is more mellow than the first album. Kind of reminds me of a Silent Enigma era Anathema sort of style. So it's, yeah, pretty mellow in parts, and as much as I like Justin's growling vocals, I don't know if they're quite appropriate for this sort of style. I mean, it does get pretty heavy in parts, but his vocals are very heavy. I kind of wonder, I must admit I prefer the first album, which is a bit more simpler and heavier than this. This one has a lot of mellow interludes. I almost kind of wish it had no heaviness to it and it was just mellow, but either way, it's good to see him trying something different at least. Yeah. Also from Repressed is Dequisitor with Sword of Pestilence. Is that EP that came out on Misako, I don't know, 7 years ago or something or other. Yeah, this is a Danish sort of war metal-y kind of band. Sort of Black Death's bloody intense. Put it that way. It doesn't sound like many other Danish death metal bands that are a lot more sort of caveman-y sounding. This is intense, sort of, you know, your revenge sort of style band. But yeah, as I said in one of my previous videos, I really like their track on that Triarchy of Death or whatever that compilation was called. So trying to track down a bit more of these guys. They just put a new album out as well, so I'll flash up a picture of that because, yeah, from what I've heard, it sounds pretty bloody intense. But yeah, it's just good, insane sort of stuff. There's like 3 tracks and an outro that, yeah, hectic. Very hectic. Up next is one I ordered from the band's website. We have Typo Negative with Dead Again. This is their last album before Pete died. This is from like 2007. Yeah, for some reason I never really listened to this all that much. I really should have listened to it a lot more, I think, but because it is pretty bloody killer. I'm always curious with Typo because they got huge fame around, you know, your October Rust and Bloody Kisses sort of era, and then after that they got very doomy and gloomy on their records. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was his mental state because Pete wrote the whole thing, but I do sometimes wonder if it was their attempt to not be as popular, possibly. But anyway, this is a good mixture of all their styles. Because it's got like several songs like Tripping a Blind Man certainly has his obvious love of Black Sabbath and the Beatles worked through it. Yeah, it's got some of his nice harsh vocals in it as well, which I always love. Yeah, there's some weird sort of songs on here. Halloween in Heaven almost sounds like the Misfits, pretty much. It's a lot faster and has some decent sort of female vocals on it. It's also got just Sabbath slow crawling doom on these 3 things, which then sort of morphs into a kind of a goth rock. I don't really like Kenny's vocals on it as much, but it's got some pretty bloody blatant Beatles tribute towards the end, I think. And yeah, it even has a sort of carnivore-y kind of style on Some Stupid Tomorrow, but then mellows quite a bit. So yeah, this is a really good album. I do need to get... I need to listen to more of the later stuff. I mean, I've had it since it came out pretty much, but just some reason I just don't usually reach for, you know, Everyone Dies or whatever the later albums are called. World Coming Down is another one that I just should listen to more, but don't for some reason. So yeah, I'll force myself to listen to more old Typo Negative. Still, whenever I see any of those, you know, kind of things of what band would you like to have seen live, Typo Negative is pretty much number 1, because yeah, I never did, and I really wish I had. I ordered this through their Bandcamp. I think this is Extortion with Seething. This is their latest sort of single, 7-inch. I don't know if these guys actually split up or they just had a very quiet patch of years, but yeah, I'm glad to see them back because they're always killer live. So yeah, this starts with, you know, your classic sort of slow, chunky intro song, and then suddenly bang, bang straight into their furious hardcore, you know, thrashcore kind of style. It's yeah, intense stuff as per usual. And I always love their cover art. They got the most horrid sort of cover art, but beautifully drawn. And yeah, this has got really nice production as well. And amusingly, the band obviously forgot to include the inner sleeve, or you know, the insert, so they had to send it out separately. Like getting this weird fold, or you know, like envelope in the mail. Going, what the hell is this? Ah, there you go. So yeah, I'm sure they weren't very happy about that, but yeah, I'm hoping I'll get to see them again live soon. So yeah, good old Extortion. Up next from their own Bandcamp was Blue Holocaust split with Morgue Breath. Blue Holocaust is a French gore grind sort of band from Pierre from Vomi Noir, and also does the Brain Dead zine. I think this used to be a solo project of his, but I'm pretty sure it's now a full band, so I think this has them, all the band members playing on it, not just Pierre by himself. This is, instead of their usual sort of giallo slasher theme, this is a nuclear holocaust theme instead. So yeah, it's good samples from, you know, apocalyptic sort of movies. And I know not all gore grind sounds like Carcass Reputrefaction, but this generally does. Although I may be I may be thrown by the fact there's like a Bill Steer sample right at the start. Just a weird little thing of him talking about nuclear holocaust. But yeah, this is just catchy, gory, killer sort of stuff. Bloody awesome. And yeah, awesome artwork from Pierre himself, who does a whole lot of covers as well, so their side rules, and as does the Morgbreath side. This is a death grind sort of band from California with Ivo from Radiation Vomit, and I think it's now got Isaac from Sulfuric Cautery and about a billion other bands. So yeah, this is not quite as gory sounding as the Blue Holocaust stuff, but friggin' intense, sort of blasting, kind of in the style of Machetezo almost. Great riffy sort of style with throaty kind of vocals, and I think Esoy Muerto is my highlight on this one. But yeah, I really like Morgbreath. I'd also recommend checking out their EP, something in Spanish. But yeah, they're killer band. I'm looking forward to a full album from these boys at some stage. Up next is another one I bought from the band themselves. This is Ahab with the Coral Tombs. This is their latest album. This is a German sort of Nordic funeral doom, they call themselves, although it's not necessarily pure funeral doom. There's a bit of sort of traditional Candlemass, Solitude Eterna sort of style, and even a bit of Opeth to it in parts. So yeah, they've mellowed a bit over the years. I still remember my good mate Brad, the Sasquatch, rambling for ages about their first album, how ridiculously heavy it was on, I think, Old Thunder or something or other, and yeah, it's pretty bloody heavy, but yeah, so I've been a fan of this band for quite a while, and they've slowly mellowed over the years, but there's still some bloody heavy stuff on this. I mean, it's all pretty bloody heavy, but it's heavy mellow in parts. Mobilis in Mobili is one of the sort of middle tracks is pretty mellow, but it builds up to a freaking nasty riff. It's pretty eerie sounding in parts. The lyrics on this are based around the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, which is a bloody cracking read of a book. Although I'm still frustrated by the ending, where it's got the classic sort of, I got knocked out and woke up and it was all over, sort of lame cliffhangery sort of style, when I don't think he ever really explained in his latest stuff what actually happened to good old Nemo. At any rate, I'll get off my Jules Verne high horse. They've done a really good job of adapting the lyrics from a lot of the key sort of points of the book. Works really well on this. Nice pretty pictures on the inside, and yeah, that cover art is stunning. But yeah, it's a damn good mix. He does use a lot more mellow vocals on this, which are really nice. They're really sort of somber kind of style. Kind of reminds me a bit of maybe like Patrick from Morning, and maybe a bit of Garm about it. It's got a really nice sort of snarly sort of bass, but the sound is exceptionally good. So yeah, if you like your doom pretty bloody slow, I would definitely recommend this one. I have a feeling this might be on my top 20 albums of the year, even though it's only February, but it's I've listened to this a lot over the last couple of weeks. Killer album. Up next is a batch of stuff I got from Behind the Mountain from Poland, I think. First up we have Leprophiliac, split with Gravagrav. Leprophiliac, I think I featured them on my last collection update. They're a Spanish band that pretty bloody killer actually. Very sort of kind of mid-paced death metal, kind of your Death Leprosy sort of style. They've got 4 songs on this, I think, and pretty bloody killer. The fourth one, what's it called? Procedure of Oral Evisceration is probably my favourite. It's got a really cool groove to it. But they're chugging along very nicely, that band. I like them. The other side is Gravagrav, which is a Japanese band. It's got Naru from CSSO and Butcher ABC, as well as Ryo from Final Exit and Tom from a band called Candivrivus. It's a weird sort of Japanese grind band with like taiko sort of drum sort of style, and it sounds bloody killer. But yeah, at any rate, on this they sound pretty much like Drave meets Bolt Thrower, which is a damn good combination if you ask me. This pretty much sounds quite a bit like Naru's other band, Butcher ABC, that I'm very pleased to see touring Australia in March, I think, so can't bloody wait for that. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, this is it's got a really nice sort of tribute to Sian, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his name, from Dead Infection, who died in 2020, I think, so he's obviously mates with Naru, I think, because CSSO toured with Dead Infection back in the day, and yeah, just good friends. So yeah, there's a really nice sort of tribute to him, and yeah, some pretty nasty, heavy grave in their early demo days sort of sounding stuff. There's also a Dead Infection cover on here as well, which is pretty killer. So yeah, they've got a lot of releases. This is actually the first time I've bothered to get around to checking them out. They've got a shitload of demos that I don't know if they ever actually released them on tape or anything, or just digital, but yeah, looking forward to a full album of these guys. Bloody killer stuff. So yeah, all up, excellent split. Also from Behind the Mountain was VHS split with Ruin. VHS is like a Canadian death grind sort of band. It's like weird nasally vocals on it. Really didn't do a huge amount for me, to tell the truth. Blood in the Water sounded a bit like Macabre, so it wasn't too bad. The B-side of that is Ruin, and it's the main reason why I bought this. They're a California death metal band, just nasty as hell. Definitely, their Spread Plague Death was one of my favourites from a couple of years ago. They're killer, just nasty sounding death metal band. First song on this is like pretty painfully slow, but then chugging speed kicks in and it's just tough as hell. So yeah, I don't think I'll be checking out VHS too much more, but Ruin, I'm going to try and get more and more of their stuff because, yeah, they're killer. Up next is one I got in a trade with Simon from Explosive Action. He got my Dim Mark CD that I hardly ever listened to, and I got Death Womb with Moonless Night Sacraments. This is a band from like the Canary Islands, which, to tell the truth, before this, I don't even know where the hell they were. They're part of Spain, but they're kind of off the African coast. This is sort of Black Death kind of stuff. It seems, I didn't even realise they would have a scene, but it seems they do, although it's pretty similar to the South Australian and Victorian scenes. It seems a lot of members are in a lot of the same bands. I think the three guys from this are also in Culto Profano and Supremative, so yeah, gets around. But this is pretty bloody impressive, I don't know, kind of Black Deathy kind of stuff. It's got sort of evil, throaty, whispery kind of vocals a la Beherit. Production's a bit iffy in part. Well, it took me a bit to get used to, put it that way. There's certain sounds that are just like, and when you first hear it, but yeah, a couple of minutes in, sounds perfectly normal. This has got some nice sort of organs and keyboards. They're pretty well used. But yeah, really, it sounds quite a bit like Sarcophago and, fellow Spaniards, Titan Blood. It's got some nice solos as well. They kind of remind me a bit of like Sad X or maybe early Morbid Angel. But yeah, overall it's pretty killer. I think, what's the track? Black Omen sounded very Blasphemy inspired, but it's fine by me. So yeah, quite happy to get this one. So thanks, Simon. You chose well. I hadn't actually heard this beforehand. He said, yeah, you'd probably like them, and yeah, good work, mate. Cheers. Last up are a batch that I got from Rotten Roll Records from Germany. They're usually gore grindy sort of stuff, but yeah, I got a few varied sort of pieces from them. So first up is Demigod with Unholy Domain. This is their 1991, I think, demo put to record. This is recorded pretty close to their first album, Slumber of Sullen Eyes. But yeah, this sounds a lot more demo-like, which I actually really like. I kind of prefer the demo sort of sound on this. Slumber always sounded a little too clean, a little too polished for my liking, whereas this is just... It's got that style that I like of demos, of young bands just trying to be as heavy as possible with limited sort of technical and technological skills and abilities. So yeah, this just, I don't know. I appreciate the effort. I love the rawness of it. This has got like 4 songs on it, only one of which made the album, which is like the first instrumental song, Perpetual Ascent. Not sure why the other ones didn't make the album, because they're bloody awesome. Reincarnation's probably my favourite on this, but yeah, so there's a nice little sort of packaged version. Doesn't really come with anything super fancy. It's got the original somewhat pixelated, bodgy cover art, but yeah, Demigod, Finnish death metal legendary for a very good reason. Up next is a Statistic Execution split with Doomed and Disgusting. Don't know why I'd never picked this one up, and it's kind of weird that I had to get 2 Aussie bands from Germany, but oh well, fine by me. I think there's only like 500 odd copies of this or something or other, so the Sad X stuff is just 2 songs off Chaos, their 3rd album. So yeah, just straight normal versions. I really didn't need these on record, but I really like the cover art. And the Volcanic Violence is the first song, and this is one of my favourite Sad X songs, and just perfect example of just crazy rock vocals and very, very crazy music that's all over the place. So Yeah, their side, awesome as always. Not surprised at all. The Doomed and Disgusting side of things, this is like Dave Slave, the bass player from SetX's sort of solo project. I think he plays everything on this except drums. Yeah, I've got a couple of his earlier albums as well, but yeah, this is sounding a bit better, I think. It's just sort of, yeah, doomed and disgusting, as you'd imagine. It's pretty doomy, but with him singing, sort of doesn't sound too different from rock, not quite as crazy, but yeah, it sounded pretty eerie in parts. I liked it. I like his vocals on this, but yeah, pretty damn heavy. But yeah, I really should listen to more of these guys. I hope he's still going. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he posts a lot of stuff, but I don't know if he's posting any new stuff. So yeah. More, Dave, more. But yeah, I was very pleased to get this, partly because this came with this cover art of this. I don't know, it's one of my favourite rock drawings that was used on the Morbid Angel 1992 tour of Australia. Also Dave Slavish. So yeah, you're very happy to get this. May well put that in a frame, that poster, I suspect. But yeah, killer stuff. Also from Rod and Roll is Cock and Ball Torture's first album, Cocktails. My finger is strategically placed there so I don't get in trouble on YouTube, and there's no way of seeing any of the inner pictures. This is their first sort of, I think it's only really an EP to tell the truth. It's from like 1997, I think, but this is the first time it came out on vinyl. This is not the original artwork by any means. I do have a reissue of the original CD, but I still kind of want to track down the very original self-released one, but yeah, glad to have this on record. This is they're pretty friggin' raw sort of stuff, but they certainly got better sound later on. But yeah, this is primitive and it's a bit faster than their later sort of groovier stuff. Yeah, I'm probably not going to read any of those song titles out either. They're a bit rude, so. But yeah, it still has their like bulldozer sort of groove to them, and yeah, very happy to get this on record. So yeah, Cock and Ball Torture. Last but definitely not least is Cock and Ball Torture's EP compilation. So this is a compilation of all the various sides from splits with Squash Bowels, Libido Airbag, Gross Member, Last Days, Disgorge, and just their own EPs as well, including the always charming Where Girls Learn to Piss on Command. See why I left this one till last. I do have a batch of these EPs already, like the originals, but it's nice to have them all on one CD. It's got a batch of covers on it, including like Last Days, Nasum for some reason, and several mucopurulent ones, which are bloody awesome. Zombie Squad 69's always a killer, and Suborbital Ejaculation's another of my favourites. This is like the spiffy version that comes in this sack bag for some reason, and it is the cum sock edition. Classy boys. So yeah, you get a sock for obvious reasons. So yeah. So of this, my favourite stuff's probably the Disgorge split, because it's got Poontang Clan, which is just killer, chunky, slower sort of song of theirs, but it's all pretty bloody good. The only weird thing on here is the order that they've got stuff in. Like right at the end is some unreleased tracks, but other than that, it's chronological. And those tracks were released in 2006, but they're from like 99 or something, so they sound totally different than the later stuff. You know, this is a useful little thing to track the change of their style over the years. But yeah, and this is also, I'm not going to read any of the song titles out, except for the fact it's got the always classy Dingo Dong. I love a good Aussie reference. So, but yeah, if you like your grind sort of porno and rude, yeah, CVT all the way. It's definitely one of my favourite bands. So, thanks heaps for watching, and hope to see you again here soon. Cheers.